5, 4, 3, 2.
Tier 1 performance.
Welcome back to the Tier 1 podcast, guys. Today's special guest with me here is a former athlete, and her competitive drive and her physique turned her onto the path to become an IFBB professional wellness competitor bodybuilder. And we're so happy to have her on today. Her name is Janae Slade. And Janae, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So we got a lot of great stuff to get into today, but it's just a little bit of background about yourself, where you're from, and kind of like what you did in your upbringing as far as like sports go.
Okay, yeah. I come from an Army family, so I moved around a lot as a kid. But I grew up in Cyprus. Went to a great school. I ran track, I did dance, ballet, tap, all of it. Volleyball for a little bit. Track is kind of what I stuck with until my senior year of high school.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so, raised an Army brat, was your, like, you know, parenting wise, was it a strict household? Like, were you disciplined?
Surprisingly, no.
No.
But a lot of their discipline, as far as cleanliness and things like that, punctuality, kind of rubbed off on me. But my parents weren't strict. They weren't the Army family that you think of.
Yes.
At all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And growing up in Cyprus, like Northwest Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what like, did you excel at sports at a young age? Like, did you feel like you were like at an athletic advantage like early on?
I've always been good at what I do. It's just in high school there were a lot of life changes going on at home, and so I just stopped running track.
Yeah.
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 And then fast forward to beyond high school, what was your choice? Like, what route did you take after high school?
So I went to school for about a year and a half. I couldn't settle on a major. I just didn't know what I wanted to do. So I came back home and I just worked for about 3 years. And then it wasn't until 2019 I got into weightlifting. And
Wow.
so as soon as I started weightlifting, I started bodybuilding. I don't know why. I just like went all in.
So you never done any weightlifting prior to that?
Only track.
Only track.
We would have like one conditioning day, strength and conditioning day, and that's all I did.
It wasn't too serious?
No. But like actual weightlifting, I've only been lifting for 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive. That's
Thank
really
you.
impressive.
Thank you.
And so what motivated you to even like get into weightlifting in the first place? Was there a certain person that you saw on social media? Was there?
So one of my dreams actually is to work with Nike. I've always just admired strong women. Like I just think it looks so good. So that's always been a vision of mine. As far as weightlifting, I worked at a cryotherapy clinic, and we always had different types of athletes come in. But there's one bodybuilder, she came in, she did figure. Her name was Jennifer. I don't know her last name, but she was the first one that kind of planted that seed in me, because she would come in and schedule her appointments around her meals. So she would do her cryo and then eat her meal while she did the compression boots. And I would watch her do this 2-3 times a week. And so that kind of introduced me to bodybuilding. As far as weightlifting, I went through a really rough period mentally, and fitness was like the only thing that I felt like I had control over in my life. And I just fell in love with it.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
And you just respected the process that this Jennifer gal went through as well. Like you were just like, hey, that discipline, that desire, that dedication.
Yeah. I was watching it. She did not miss a beat. She did not miss a beat. And she didn't seem miserable doing it. Like she enjoyed doing it, you know? So, yeah.
It's inspiring, to say the least.
It is. It is. It's not easy, but when you see the dedication that goes into it, I just wanted to try it.
And you found a purpose.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so awesome. And so for a lot of our viewers out there, could you explain to them like what wellness division is in the IFBB realm and NPC realm for that matter, and like what the criteria the judges are looking for?
So actually my very first prep, I was doing bikini.
Wow.
And then COVID ended that. I was 4 weeks out from my first show ever in 2020. But wellness essentially is bikini, just with lower body. That's how I always describe it. So they're not looking for you to be super top heavy. It's all in the legs, which I feel like was meant for me because of my track background and just how I'm built. I could not do bikini.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, do they still look for the broad shoulders though, and the V taper?
They look for all of that. They look for the cap shoulders, the small waist, all of it. They just don't want you super dense, because then you start to kind of play around with physique and, you know, different divisions. So it's a very fine line. You have to get it right.
Yes.
Yeah, like you have to get it right.
Wow. And do you feel like there are a lot of bikini competitors that could turn wellness, or is it like one of those things where genetically speaking and based on your athletic background, you built the glutes and hamstrings with your running background, so it's kind of tough to do, right?
If anything, I think there's more wellness that should be bikini.
Okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Maybe not on the pro level,
right,
but definitely the amateur level. I think that more people should size down. I think it's smarter to grow into wellness versus just going for that right out the gate.
Very smart.
Yeah, just in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and because wellness is like a relatively new division, correct?
Yeah, it came to the States in 2020. That was the first year it came here. It's always been in South America. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so
I think the misconception is, you know, women, we carry a lot of our weight in our hips and things like that. So when you're just walking around normal, of course you look wellness, but you don't see your true physique until you cut down. And that goes for any division, you know? So I definitely think a lot of people should grow into wellness. Don't rush it.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree, because I think a lot of kids out there, and I mean, this goes for both males and females, there's like a misconception. They start dirty bulking and they put on too much body fat.
Right.
And they're not able to see where their weak points are. So when they do cut, they're like, oh, I don't have these shoulders.
You didn't really correct anything or grow anywhere. Right.
So what's your, I guess, what's your number one rule of thumb in, like, say, off-season training?
Go just as hard.
Go just as hard.
And eat. That's actually a struggle of mine, because it's hard for me to eat a lot, and I'm having to eat a lot right now. It's very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very uncomfortable.
And you and I both know, just being in the bodybuilding community, you know, it's not all about just pure size and mass. I think there's also a misconception with that as far as bodybuilding goes. It's like there's an aesthetics part of bodybuilding.
Yeah.
And I think the leaner you are, you give the optical illusion that you are bigger.
Yeah, it's all an illusion. And I didn't learn that until I went to nationals. When you see pictures, we look big. And then being backstage, I'm like, oh wow, we're really not that big. And even Olympians, like, obviously they're big, but it's all an illusion.
Yeah.
The tan helps, you know, being dry helps. It's all an illusion.
And just being like sub 10% body fat, I don't think a lot of people realize it's like you're going to feel small, but you're big in the grand scheme of things, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like a regular person walking down the street in street clothes who's like maybe 20-30% body fat, they're going to look good in clothes, but it's like you kick the shirt off, there's a lot of fat, a lot of body fat.
Exactly.
And so initially when you got into weightlifting, I guess, did people kind of take notice to your physique right away and were like, hey, you should compete with this?
No one ever suggested competing. Again, I don't even know how that came to me, other than meeting Jennifer. But I started working out, and maybe a week later, I was like, all right, I'm just going to do a show. And I was sitting in the sauna at 24 Hour Fitness. I don't know if you know Mike Harris from O Athletic.
Yes.
So he was in the sauna, and I overheard him telling someone about some competitors he was prepping. And I was like, hey, sorry for eavesdropping, but I want to do a show. And the next day, I was in there for an assessment, and that's when we started.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which
I didn't really have time to think about it, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, I just did it.
You were a week into weightlifting, you're like, we're doing a show.
Yeah, it was really weird. And even when I first did it, it was something to push myself, because I felt like I really didn't have anything to be proud of, sort of. I stopped going to school. I just wanted to be proud of myself or something, you know?
Yeah.
I didn't know I'd be good at it.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And so I guess, like, initially getting into weightlifting, were you watching YouTube videos? Like, how did you start? For those beginners out there who don't have any guidance, who don't know where to start, what would you suggest to them?
Well, that was 2019, so the fitness content was not like it is right now. So a lot of it was YouTube, Google, and just my knowledge from track. I knew what to do. I knew how to squat. I knew to do leg extensions. I just didn't know all the intricate ones, you know, lat raises and certain ways to hold things like that. But the basics I knew.
For sure.
And I probably look crazy in there. I'm not gonna lie. At 24 Hour Fitness, I know I look crazy because I didn't know what I was doing, but something in me just said, "Do it. Just keep going."
But were you always an advocate of like strict form though? Like, did you feel like you always had like a good mind-body connection?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think that's the biggest thing is like when I started lifting weights, I wasn't trying to go for the most weight I could do. I was like, how can I do this with the most perfect form?
Right.
And actually feel those muscles engaging.
That's what it's all about. Yeah.
And, I see a lot of people get, a lot of ego lifters out there, especially when you're young, when you're 16 to 20, I think male and female, you're like, hey, I just want to do more weight,
Yeah.
But it's not about that.
It's not. Yeah. It's really not at all.
And that's when injuries can occur.
Yep.
Because your stabilizers might not be as strong.
Yeah, and that's when a lot of imbalances come in. Because if you're training wrong for 3 months, it takes a while to correct that and reverse it. So I would always, even with my clients, they always tell me, I can go heavier. And I'm like, I know that, but your form is not right yet. You have to get that form down.
Yes.
Otherwise, we're just working backwards.
I cannot agree more.
Yeah.
And so you work with this coach through O Athletic. And I guess how many, like, what was the prep time for that show? Because, wait, this was during 2020, so, like, you're 4 weeks away.
2019 into 2020.
Okay.
And then, 3 or 4 weeks out, the world shut down. Yeah.
But could you look in the mirror and just say, like, hey, look, I'm proud of the physique?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
I saw it all coming together.
Yeah.
My biggest challenge at that point was getting down to bikini because I'm just not built for bikini. But again, wellness was not a thing. So that was my choice. And I wasn't going to do figure. I'm not built for figure either. But we had talked about wellness. He knew about it. And so I was aware of it. But I think that it all worked out. Because as soon as COVID was lifted, the lockdown, that's when wellness came. And so the first wellness show I saw was the Tampa Pro in 2020. And I was like, yeah, that's me.
That's awesome.
All day.
That's awesome. Because I compare wellness to like the female version of classic physique.
Yes.
I think it's a division that's just taking off.
Yes.
And
I love classic.
It's athletic.
I love classic.
It's much healthier looking in my opinion, and I think it's going to be the future.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a look that looks right all year, whether you're prepping or you're not.
Right.
If you do it the right way, of course. But definitely classic and wellness. Those are my top two.
Agreed.
Yes. All day.
So you fast forward through COVID. When was your first show?
My first show was the Phil Heath in 2021, which was actually the show I was supposed to do in 2020.
Wow.
Yeah. But
in Pasadena?
Bikini. No, this one was in College Station.
That's right.
Which is crazy because that's where I went to school.
Really?
So everything was just like full circle.
That's so
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
And I've been to that show before in Bryan College Station, and it's like the convention center, right? Like it's a good show.
Yeah, he
It's
always
really
puts on a great show.
Yeah.
Always. Yeah.
That's so awesome.
That was my first show. I won overall. And again, bodybuilding was just something I wanted to push myself to do. I had made that promise to myself in 2019, so I followed through with it in 2021, not knowing that I was going to continue. So I actually stopped. Not stopped, but I didn't have any plans for another show. And then, people kept asking me. It was like that passion for it was always there. And so last year, again, I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it. Right. And that's when I found Cash. And I told him, look, I want my pro card. Let's just do it. Just tell me what to do. And we prepped for 5 months. We did Muscle Beach last year. And then 2 months later, went to Nationals. And I won my pro card.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you only did 3 shows
Yeah.
before you won your pro card.
I won my pro card on my 3rd show. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And guys, for those of you out there, that's not easy to do.
No.
I mean, that is like the 1%.
Yeah.
It's 1%.
I know people who have gone to 7, 8, 9 national shows. So I'm very blessed in that regard, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool because you've kind of helped set the standard of what the wellness division is and what it's supposed to look like, which I think is cool. Makes you kind of like a pioneer in that.
One thing about me, I'm very sure of myself. And so I don't really compare myself to other people. And I always tell people, like, look at Francilli. She won Olympia 2 times. She's not the biggest. She doesn't have these massive shoulders, massive quads, but she's the most proportionate. She's still soft. She's feminine. And so that's just the goal I'm going for.
Yes.
You know, I really tune out any outside noise. I don't care if people don't think I'm the biggest. I know I'm proportionate, and I know that my look flows, and I'm confident in that. So,
yes.
yeah,
So
I think that's the biggest thing in this sport. Do not compare yourself to anybody. Just stay in your lane.
I feel like there's qualities you can take into everyday life as well.
Just don't compare yourself to anyone, because you don't know people's struggles, you know.
Right.
And so I just live my life.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And I feel like in the day of social media too, it's like you're going to post what you want people to see.
Right.
And that can be kind of like, you know, if you're addicted to social media, you know, it can be detrimental
Yeah.
to your mental health.
Because you're only seeing the highlights of people's lives.
Right.
You're not seeing the dark days that they have or the things that they're constantly battling with. So, yeah, I take social media with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very nice. And like, I guess in that regard, what advice would you give to females in general, not even just competitors, but like, how do you manage your work-life balance with your training schedule?
Creating a schedule.
Okay.
Like, I have a planner, hour by hour. You know what to do. If you have to wake up early, wake up early.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just get it done. And really, the biggest thing is have a why. If you know your why and you have a purpose, nothing can really stop that. But if you're just doing it to say you did it, or you're doing it because it looks cool, it looks like the cool thing to do, it's never going to work out.
Right.
Ever. You need to know why you're doing it and stand on that conviction. Mm-hmm. And don't let anybody sway you or take you away from that.
And that's what I commend bodybuilders most about, is that they do it for themselves. They're not
Mm-hmm.
trying to do it for anybody else.
Yeah.
And that's like always been important to me. Like, whenever you walk yourself in the gym for 2 hours, you're not doing it for anyone else.
No.
You know?
It's just you and those weights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so how long, I guess, going into these shows, how often were you training and how many hours a day?
So I train 5 days a week.
Okay.
Leg days, of course, are much longer. My leg days take about 2 hours almost. Upper body will take me about an hour, hour and a half. Yeah.
That's efficient.
You think so?
For upper body.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I guess we train it differently.
Yes.
Mine is more just like little plump, you know, keep it cute. But those leg days are brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah, those leg days are brutal.
And do you do two a week?
3.
3 leg days a
So
week?
I do quads, 1 day quads, glutes and calves, and then hamstrings.
Wow.
Yeah.
And is that pretty standard across the board for most wellness competitors, or is that?
Mm-hmm. For the most part.
Okay.
Everyone I know does 3 days, and everyone splits it up.
You take Sunday and Wednesday off?
Typically, like right now, I'm only doing back days every other week.
Mm-hmm.
So I really have 2 rest days every other week. It really just depends how I'm feeling. But those leg days are always Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Wow.
Always. So then I kind of play around with the other days if I need the rest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you mentioned before, your training basically remains the same for contest prep as it does off season.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like maybe the volume or the repetitions or the food
Yeah.
that's different.
It's the food.
The food.
But the training stays the same.
Intense.
Yeah. The food is the only thing that really changes.
And what would you recommend is the best rep range for people trying to gain hypertrophy, like gain muscle?
Well, my plan is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. Like for leg extensions, I do 8 sets
Mm-hmm.
and I start at 30 and I work
30
my way
reps.
down. Yeah.
Wow.
But I do tempo training as well. So I might do partials and then all the way up and hold, things like that. So it's good to research that. Tempo training, a lot of isolated workouts as well.
So you're a believer of switching it up, like kind of
yeah.
shocking your body.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And is the most important thing, would you say, like intensity though? Because like no matter if you do like 5 reps or 30 reps, you shouldn't be able to do a 31st rep.
Right.
Right? Or like you shouldn't be able to do a 6th rep.
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. Yeah. And that mind to muscle connection, like really activating everything. You should feel everything like squeezing as you're hitting those reps. Don't really rush it, which is also a problem of mine. I move very fast, so I'm learning how to kind of slow down.
Well, you're a fast twitch athlete.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's really hard for me. Like I'll watch other bodybuilders work out and I'm like, oh my God, they're going so slow.
And it seems boring. Right?
Yeah. And like me, my leg press, I'm like, I'm just leg pressing all fast. So that's my biggest challenge right now is slowing down.
And is it mainly slowing down the eccentric movement though? Mm-hmm. So the concentric could be quick.
Yeah.
As long as
it's me like coming back down. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I can't. I'm so used to track.
Right.
Yeah, that's what you do.
That's what you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, what should that eccentric descend, like, how long should that be in your mind?
I say 3 to 5 seconds.
3 to 5.
Yeah. Mine aren't that long because I have short legs, but about 3.
Okay.
Yeah, as slow as you can go. Yeah.
And that's for hypertrophy work.
Right.
Okay, kids.
Right.
Listen to Janae.
Okay, kids. Yeah.
So, okay. Now, tell us a little bit about what you do for your work, because
Okay.
you're one of the top fitness trainers in Houston.
I'm a personal trainer.
Yes.
And I also teach at Sweat.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're at B-Fit and Sweat.
Mm-hmm.
And we've met each other through MyFit Foods, the collaboration
Yes.
that we got with you guys.
Yes.
And how long have you been training there for?
3 years.
At each one?
Mm-hmm. No, well, Sweat, I've only been there since April
Okay.
of this year. I've been training since May of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
I started at another gym. It just wasn't a good fit. But I've been at B-Fit for 3 years.
Okay.
So really, I've been training for about 3.5.
Is that your home gym for your own personal training
Mm-hmm.
use as well?
Yep.
And do you take on clients of all like backgrounds, all different ages, different
Everything.
goals, everything?
Yeah. I've been blessed enough. Some people ask why I don't promote my training a lot. A lot of my clients are word of mouth, and a lot of them stick with me for a while. So I really don't have the room for it. But I really want to get into online training.
Yeah,
I think that I could do very well in that.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yes,
Just trying to find something that works, you know?
yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I'm really big about the mental aspect of it. And so I'm trying to find a way to incorporate that, because I know what fitness has done for me mentally, for my mental health, and just spiritually too. And so I try to tie that in, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
I think, people on the outside looking in at people who train off him, they don't realize, hey, they're not training just for looks. It's
Right.
more so for your mental health, even more so than your physical health, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so for people like dealing with like depression and being in like a bad mental state, if they're like, what are like, say, several things that you believe would be very, very beneficial to them?
First and foremost, speaking kindly to yourself, always. And also creating some type of routine, like I said earlier. When you have that routine, you don't give your mind enough time to be idle, and that's when a lot of those thoughts start to come in. So it's not to say work yourself to burnout, but create a plan, that will work for you. Definitely.
And keeping yourself busy.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's really important.
Yes. Yes.
And so looking forward, do you have a show that you ideally would like to do next year that you have in mind?
I'm not sure. Right now we're just growing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping I want to do something in Texas, because I'd love for like my friends and stuff to be there. Maybe the Texas Pro, that's in Dallas, I think.
Yeah,
it's a great show.
That and Battle of Texas are like the top two.
Yes, right? Yes, that's a great show. But of course, Olympia is my goal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But that's Olympia qualifier, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All pro shows are.
Wow.
So I feel it in my heart. Yeah.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Me and Jordan are going to be there.
Yeah. Like, I know I'm going to go. I'm going to qualify next year. It's just a matter of when.
That show takes place in September normally, correct?
Texas Pro?
Texas Pro?
No. Well, this year it was in the summer, I think.
This year's in the summer?
I think in August.
Okay.
Or July.
Okay. Because
Yeah.
it's consistently, I think, the same month every year.
Yeah.
And what's your mindset this off season? Because I know that you and I had talked about it. You're not trying to get as big as you possibly can. Is there a certain body fat that you try to stay at in the off season to kind of keep your body in check, or is it more so like a look?
I'm just naturally active between clients and then Sweat. At Sweat, I'm working out with them as well, essentially.
Jeez.
So I always stay relatively lean and conditioned. Like we talked about, drug use is really big in this industry.
Correct.
And I was with a coach very briefly over the summer who pushed that very heavily on me. So I'm actually just now getting back into it. This is like my 3rd week back into the groove of things. I kind of stopped for a while, so I was very discouraged, being told that I need to take X, Y, and Z to get somewhere when I knew in my heart I didn't need to do that.
Right.
Now I'm very aware that I cannot be natural in this sport. I know that, but certain drugs are a no-no for women. And that's another thing that I think all athletes need to know, men and women. Do your research, get your blood work done, and talk to doctors. Don't let these coaches tell you just anything.
Right.
Because it can damage you in the long run. And if you want a family, and especially women, if you want to maintain your femininity, it's very important to not jump the gun on that. Yeah.
I agree, because
And be
bodybuilding
careful.
should be beautiful.
Yeah, that's what it started as. It's always been that. And I don't know when it changed. I don't, but it's getting kind of out of hand.
Well, because like a lot of, in my opinion too, like a lot of these coaches or gurus that you see on Instagram, they don't have your long-term health best interests in mind.
I mean, for them, it's, and rightfully so, but for them, it's more about, let me throw you on stage so I can get more athletes. And I get it, it's a business.
Right.
But you need someone that cares about your health.
And do you think we live in a society too that it's like they want short-term, they want everything now instead of like that long-term?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I would be rich right now if I got money every time someone asked, when are you getting back on stage?
Right.
I'm not rushing it. I will not rush it. Yeah. And I think a lot of people do. Like, I see people win their pro card at nationals and then they go do their pro debut like a month or two later.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense to me. What are you rushing? The stage is not going anywhere.
No.
It hasn't for decades, and it won't for decades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the best way to do it as a bodybuilder is try to be as natural as you possibly can, utilizing your full genetic potential and being smart about it. And it's not a sprint, it's a marathon.
It's really not. Have fun with it.
Yeah.
You know, like enjoy, take pictures, of course, and then just, I've learned to fall in love with seeing my body change. And we don't see that a lot until you take those check-in pictures and you're like, oh wow, a week did that, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
No, I mean, because, I think that especially in the male, I don't know how it is with females as far as like young competitors, like in the early 20s, but with males, it's like you see some guys at 21, 22, 23 look phenomenal because they've been blasting gear for like since they were 18.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And then they fall off the map. You never hear about them ever again after 25, 26, 27 because it's like they're maxed out.
Then you have to think, as we get older, our bodies mature, our muscle matures. If you're not giving your body time to do that, you're going to hit that wall.
Correct.
Earlier than you should.
Yes, for sure. And, okay, so I guess getting to those that are interested in competing out there, what advice would you give them upon, like, do they need to find a great coach to start with? And what do they need to be like financial status wise? I mean, because it's an expensive sport. It's a very expensive hobby. Would you recommend that they have a good job under their belt before starting to get in the bodybuilding realm or world?
Either have a good job or start putting money aside.
Yeah.
Because it is not cheap.
No.
And you don't make money off of it.
No. A lot of people know
You
that.
do not.
People
We end up negative. You walk away negative.
Yeah.
And with a trophy.
Right.
Like, seriously, it's very, very expensive. And people go broke doing this sport.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I was really pushing my luck doing 2 shows in 5 months last year.
Right.
Like, yeah, I really pushed that one. But I made it happen.
That's awesome.
So definitely, and different coaches charge different things. Some people charge monthly. Some people charge outright for the whole prep. So I would just say start putting money aside. Think about groceries, supplements, all of it. Your gym membership, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you do choose to like compete in the NPC per se, would you recommend doing that first show fully natural just to see if this is for you, or is that kind of like a personal decision in your mind?
Unfortunately, I feel like the NPC has gotten not natural.
Very
Like,
not natural.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't always like that.
Right.
So that's the bad part, you know?
Right.
You might actually have to use something. But again, do your research. On the NPC level, I don't think it's necessary to use the top of the top gear.
Correct.
That's ridiculous. Like, there's no reason why you should go out there looking like that. Be as natural as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you don't even really know, unless you know for certain that this is what you want to do long term, it's just not worth it, you know?
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And like we had talked about before, it's like at the amateur stage, they're looking at your shape and your genetics and conditioning essentially, right? Like they're not worried about how big you can get at the amateur stage.
They're not looking at all the fine details and things like that they look at the pro league or at nationals. So it's really not necessary.
It's about how conditioned you can get, how sharp you can look on stage.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you can replicate that at the pro level.
Right.
And time and, more supplementation is going to gain you the size you need.
Right, right. So just be careful.
Yes.
That's what I always tell people. Be careful. And, it's you versus you up there. Mm-hmm. This is not a team sport. Like, if you feel your best, don't let anybody tell you that you don't look good, Because really, getting to show day for a lot of us is the best we've ever looked, natural or not. And that right there is a win in itself. So I just think that sometimes people let the judges kind of mess with their head sometimes, which I get it. That's what it is. But be proud of yourself and kind of set your own goal for yourself, Because
it's a very subjective sport by nature.
It is.
And, the judges are looking for something in their mind that looks good, but, in others it might not the same way.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, wow, this is my actual body.
I feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you get that?
You might have different judges at every show that you do. Mm-hmm. And they might all have different opinions, So it is subjective. Yeah.
Because are there times where you look at yourself, like on show day, after you get the tan, the glisten, the everything else, and you're just like, wow, like I can't believe this is my body.
Yeah, I do that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, damn.
Crazy.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy what the human body can look like.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing what it can do.
It's truly an art.
It's really science.
Yeah.
It's a lot of science. Like knowing when to pull water, what to eat right before you step on stage. Like, it's all science.
And that's why it's so important to have a smart coach in your background and like a doctor and like all this other stuff, right?
Yeah. I always tell people when looking for a coach, look at their track record. Mm-hmm. How many wins do they have? What do their athletes look like? For women, what do their women sound like? Voice-wise.
Right.
Like, pay attention to everything. Yeah.
It's a very detail-oriented sport.
Yeah. And coaching, I compare it to being in a relationship. Mm-hmm. This is someone that you talk to almost every day, especially on prep. You guys are in constant communication. The personalities need to match and the values need to match. Otherwise, it won't work. So, yeah.
I agree.
Find someone you get along with.
Yeah. You need that chemistry. And somebody who's like punctual, kind of is going to get you stuff on time.
Yeah. Someone who responds.
Quickly, right?
Doesn't ghost you.
Preferably.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. It's not asking for too much, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, Janae. So I'm so excited about you competing and you obviously training this off season. And, for those of you, I guess, at Sweat, it's more high intensity interval training that you're doing, right?
Yeah.
And at BFit, it's more so one-on-one personal training.
One-on-one personal training. So Sweat is, we have two different types of classes. Signature is 50% treads, 50% on the floor. Okay. And then strength is strictly on the floor. We start on the treads for maybe 5 minutes, and then we end class on the treads.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And they're intense.
And at Sweat, I incorporate a lot of what I would do with my clients. So I explain the form and things like that. It's not super rushed, like HIIT training usually is.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you're big on form. You're overseeing like what they're doing.
But that's also preference. Like, people know when they're going to come take my class, I'm kind of in that personal training mode versus let's just hurry up and lift the weights. I definitely focus on form. That's kind of my biggest thing. Yeah. I don't need anyone getting hurt.
No.
Saying they took my class and got hurt.
Yeah.
I don't need that.
She tortured me.
Oh my gosh, no, I don't need that. Yeah.
That's so awesome. And obviously, we've got all your social media information that we're going to be posting on our account as well. Mm-hmm. And they can find you on Instagram. Are you on TikTok?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Yeah.
Is that going to be the future?
I'm trying to get over that. I don't know why, talking in the camera is so weird to me.
It's odd. It's still odd for me and Jordan.
Just opening it and like things like this I can kind of do, but just myself, it's very awkward to me.
Yeah.
I can't take myself serious.
So
I really can't.
So even setting up a tripod while you're working out,
I can do that all day.
You can do that all day.
The only thing with that, I'll start, but then I get in my zone and I don't have time to be doing all the angles and stuff. So I'm working on it. I'm trying to do better. I am.
But you're also not really talking in those videos, right? You're just
I'm just
putting in the work. That's just you.
But like I said, I'm really big on mental health. There are a lot of things that I want to talk about. I just have to get comfortable talking to my phone.
Right.
Yeah.
And honestly, when we get you on here in the future, we can dive into that as well.
Yeah,
After you start experimenting with that, we'd love to kind of dive into that.
I think it's just more of a personality thing. Like, I'm very introverted. I'm very to myself unless I know you.
Yeah.
And so the idea of just putting a video out there for the whole world to see is kind of weird.
True. Yeah, it took you a while to open up to me. She's like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah, I'm like, why is this man?
No, that's so awesome. Well, Janae, it was a pleasure having you on today.
Thank you,
I really
thank
appreciate
you.
your time.
I appreciate
and
it.
have a great rest of your weekend.
You too.
2,